Now, the government may be on the cusp of approving Britain's first coal mine in decades. The Cabinet, we're told, is rallying behind a proposal to open Woodhouse Colliery in Cumbria, which we're told is part of a plan to wean the UK off Russian coal imports. In October 2020, Woodhouse Colliery was given the go-ahead as the first deep mine coal mine in Britain for 30 years. And if developed, it will produce coking coal, which is essential in steel making. Ahead of last November's COP26 climate change conference in Glasgow, though, ministers launched an inquiry into the Woodhouse Colliery amidst protests from environmental activists. At that summit, the Prime Minister said he wasn't in favour of more coal, but he stopped short of outright opposition. And the decision on whether or not to open Woodhouse now lies with Community Secretary Michael Gove. Up until around 2013, coal was used to generate around a quarter of all electricity here in the UK. That's now fallen almost to zero, with Britain relying on gas, nuclear and renewables like wind and solar to generate that power. Britain's typically imported 40% of our coking coal for steel making from Russia. But British Steel, now owned by the Chinese, of course, and Indian-owned Tata, which also makes steel in the UK, they've stopped importing Russian coal since the war in Ukraine. Both companies have found alternative supplies from mines in Wales and the US and Canada. And Russia's invasion seems to have galvanised the Cabinet in favour of developing another source of UK coking coal for steel making, an industry which still employs 30,000 UK workers. Supporters of the new mine point to China, which still has over 1,100 coal-fired power plants and is building more each year. They say the UK now uses very little coal, so we're more than doing our bit to tackle climate emissions. Certainly, China burned 82.2 exajoules of coal in 2020. How much is that? Well, it's 4 times more than India, 9 times more than the US, and 430 times more than Britain. Michael Gove has until July the 7th to make his decision, but there are signs this announcement could come in the next few weeks. Many people in Whitehaven, a relatively deprived Cumbrian town close to the Woodhouse site, want the jobs and investment this new mine will bring. Environmental campaigners, often wealthier, largely living elsewhere, remain staunchly opposed. So what should happen? And that's our On the Money question today. Do we need more coal mining in Cumbria? Joining me for this discussion is an ex-coal miner, David Craddock, another Cumbrian coal mine supporter, Oliver Hodgson, who lives near to the site, plus a climate activist for Extinction Rebellion, Chris Riches. And with me in the studio, Head of Investment at Interactive Investor, Victoria Scholar. Don't tell me we don't have balanced and broad-based panels here on GB News, because we do. Let's talk to you first, David Craddock. You are an ex-coal miner. Yes. What do you feel when you hear that this deep coal mine may finally be given approval?
It's a sensation of elation after so much, the mine was approved and then it wasn't approved, and all these talks went back and forth. Eventually you thought, oh, it's not going to happen, and then with all the upheaval, it's suddenly come to the fore again, and I hope it gets approved.
And what do you think, Oliver Hodgson? I know you live close to the site. What's local sentiment like in terms of whether or not this mine should go ahead?
Yeah, I spoke to GB News last September about it with Bradley, and it's very much the same now. You walk down Whitehaven High Street, a good 95% of locals on both sides of the political spectrum really see the great benefits of having this mine on our doorstep. Whitehaven is one of the most deprived postcodes in the country, and we are crying out for £160 million worth of private investment. And I think the key there is this is private investment. And as I said, Whitehaven is a very deprived area. We rely heavily on the local nuclear industry, which is being decommissioned. So we certainly need this, and the demand is still there for coking coal. So absolutely, the local sentiment is very much pro-mine. Yes, we have a few who are very fixated on the current climate crisis, which cannot be denied. But for most of us, the economic benefits far outweigh the 0.1% it will contribute to our global emissions, the UK's global emissions, that is.
We've almost entirely removed coal usage, Chris Riches, from our electricity generation, as I mentioned at the top of the show. China's using 420 times more coal than we are, and yet we're polluting into the same atmosphere. Isn't there a case here for a little bit of a reprieve, particularly in light of this Russian invasion of Ukraine?
No, I don't agree, to be honest. I'd like to just touch on a few of the arguments that the previous panelists mentioned on jobs. This mine is going to create about 500 jobs, is what West Cumbria Mining says. A recent report came out last year or the year before, I think, that said that Cumbria has the opportunity to have 9,000 green jobs if the investment is put in the right place. Another thing on there is the Climate Change Committee, so the government's own advisory body, said that it is, this is a quote here, it's desirable and achievable to phase out coal in steel production by 2035. And this mine is predicted to last until 2049. So what we're actually doing, if this mine was to open, is to put people in insecure jobs when coal is going to become obsolete within the next 15 years. The right thing to do here is to start investing in those green jobs that actually have a future. And on the coal dependency question, this is just a complete lie made up by West Cumbria Mining. Over 90% of this coal is going to be exported due to the high sulfur content. It's going to be exported to countries with lower environmental regulations, which is going to be even worse for the planet. The recent IPCC report said that we're on track for over 3 degrees of global warming. That is just catastrophic for so many people across the country, and we cannot accept having a new coal mine.
David, what do you make of those arguments? I mean, Chris has, he studied this closely. You may disagree with some of his interpretations. What would you say to him when he says that Whitehaven can't have this coal mine?
The environmentalists seem to pick up on sulfur content. Sulfur content's never been a problem with Whitehaven coal. They just blend it to suit whatever they're doing. That's just a red herring that they throw in. The coal, you ask the relevant question, do we need the coal, yes or no? And if we do need the coal, why bring it from somewhere else when we've got millions of tons of it beneath our feet in Whitehaven?
There is a certain amount of hypocrisy here, isn't there, Oliver? The government says we're using a lot less coal, but we're still importing coal, so the climate emissions are happening. It's just that they're happening elsewhere.
Yeah, and we're importing coal from countries with really poor working conditions where we don't know, the workers' rights and whatnot. And I think also, you talk about it being a bit embarrassing for the government, but I think with the huge levelling up agenda, it's a bit embarrassing that this, they're not talking about the huge economic benefits. And I think, the chap earlier touched on the 9,000 new green jobs without a bit of substance as to who, what and when. Who are those jobs being funded by? The magic money tree in the Parliament orchard? We've just been through 2 of the worst years our country's ever faced, and he's on about 9,000 new jobs. But it would be nice to know where they're coming from, because obviously everybody would support that amount of jobs and that amount of green jobs, which are obviously very, modern and being with the times. But where's that money coming from? There is no magic money tree in the Parliament orchard.
Well, you're seeing here, Victoria Scholar, a microcosm of a much bigger debate. We're conducting it politely and with respect, as we always try to here on GB News, but passions are very, very high. What do you suspect might happen here?
I think this is a complex debate, and I could see both sides of the argument. On the one hand, this is a project that could massively stimulate the local economy, create a whole host of jobs and provide a massive economic boost locally. But at the same time, we need to take a step back and look at the broader picture and the environmental concerns. And although there is clearly a deficit in terms of our energy demand, with supply falling short across the country and in fact across the world, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, it's not necessarily that dirty energy that is the solution. We need to look to some of those more greener solutions and renewables instead.
Dave, let's go back to you. You and I are the senior members on this panel. We got two of the younger members here saying that we need to focus on the green agenda. Aren't we just out of touch? David Craddock.
Hello?
David.
Are we out of touch?
Yeah.
I don't think we're out of touch at all. If you look at what's going on in the world, you suddenly realise how much we need to rely on our own resources. It's all very well, all this global economy and all that sort of stuff, but when all comes down to it, you're reliant on people in other countries making decisions that suit you when we should be making our own.
Isn't there something in that? I mean, Chris, you've heard that from David. He's raised a family and had a decent life based on coal mining. And then we've also got Oliver, who lives close to the mine. They want this mine to happen. China uses a lot more coal than we do, 400 times more. I put it to you again, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, wouldn't it be better for your cause? Wouldn't it be better if you showed a little bit of flexibility here?
I don't think we have the room for flexibility. The recent IPCC report spelled it out for us. It is end fossil fuels now or die. This is, we're in an emergency situation. And on one of the points of the other panelists about, where's this money coming from? We see from the government, when they perceive there to be an emergency, as with COVID, the money appears. It's about where that money is being funneled at the minute, and I'm more than happy to send the report about these new 9,000 green jobs to your producer after the show to send about as well. But this isn't this isn't a case of we have to have this mine when there are alternatives to it. Why would the panel not be in favour of creating more jobs, more green jobs, 9,000? Compared to just 500 from this mine.
Richards, let me come back to you again. You're from Extinction Rebellion. Let's just broaden the debate out. There is a cost of living crisis happening. There's genuine fuel poverty happening in Britain now. I'm not talking about in the future, the scope of an IPCC report. I'm talking about now. Is there any argument at all for scrapping those renewable subsidies which make up a quarter of everyone's electricity bill here in the UK at this time, at a time when we're in the middle of the tightest cost of living squeeze since the 1950s, with more price rises to come, when pensioners are choosing between heating and eating? How about just suspending those renewable subsidies for a bit? A lot of those renewable subsidies, as you may know, go to very wealthy landowners and other massive corporate giants.
Why don't we suspend the subsidies that are given to the UK oil and gas industry? That's totaled £13.6 billion since the Paris Agreement. I'd like to just touch on what you said there about climate change being a future issue. That's just not true. It's happening now. You see the wildfires happening. You see the floods around the world. You see tube stations in London getting flooded. This is happening now. And the cost of living crisis, I like to say, it's a political choice. It's not the fault of renewable subsidies. It's the fault of companies like Shell and BP that have made over £40 billion of profit in the last year. How is that fair?
But do you not risk, with all respect to you, coming across as just a little bit hard-edged when you do have many people in poverty in the UK suffering from huge rises in their electricity bills, companies folding, people losing their jobs, people on very low incomes? If we take those renewable subsidies off for a bit, if we suspend them, again, wouldn't that then be environmental campaigners coming across as reasonable, practical, pragmatic?
Well, I opened the show here advocating for 9,000 new jobs just in Cumbria alone. This is what we need. We need a transition.
I'm talking about in the coming weeks and months, Chris. In the coming weeks and months, fuel bills are going to go up a lot more, given what's happening on global commodity markets. I'm not talking about 9,000 green jobs in the future, which aren't going to help older people struggling with their electricity bills now.
And I also said that Shell and BP are making £40 billion of profit now. How about we tax those, companies fairly? How about we create a citizens' assembly, where normal people can decide what happens? It's not for me, to lecture people on what to do. It's not for you to lecture people on what to do. These choices need to be made by the people in a assembly on climate change, on how best to reach net zero.
There's no lecturing going on here, Chris. I'm just asking questions that many people in Britain would want me to ask. David Craddock, what do you feel when you hear Chris's arguments?
I think the hypocrisy is astounding. The only question that needs answering is, do we need the coal? And if we do, where are we going to get it from? I mean, I've heard no solution to these people. They still need the coal for steel making. Where are they going to get it from? Do they get it locally, or do they go to places where they strip mine, take the top of a mountain and just leave it? Or do they come to GB where the practices have been proven over years? It's safer, greener, cleaner.
I just want to end this discussion by returning to you, Victoria, if I may. What you do for a living is you follow financial markets, you follow commodity markets. We've seen a huge spike in oil and gas prices since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But gas prices are returning now, not quite to normal levels, but they've come back a bit. What is the outlook for that energy price cap in October that Ofgem will set? That will also be on the mind of many of our viewers, given their utility bills. Yeah, well, we have seen huge commodity price inflation even preceding the war in Ukraine. Following on from COVID, we saw this supercharged demand for everything from food to fuel to steel, you name it. And that was struggling. The supply chains were struggling to keep a pace. So we had this big imbalance. And that's why we've seen massive commodity inflation across the board. And that's why we're seeing prices go up everywhere, from food to petrol and all sorts of different things. So it's a really, really challenging situation. We've already seen the energy price cap go up once, and the expectation is that it will rise again in October. Because it reflects wholesale gas prices, wholesale energy prices, because that's what's used to generate the electricity. Yeah, so we have seen gas prices come off a bit, but we're still very much near the highs, and there's been sort of triple-digit percentage gains over the last year or so. So really, really difficult for households to keep a pace. Victoria, thanks a lot for that. And thank you to all my guests for that discussion. It is a contentious issue. Thank you to all of you for conducting it in a reasonable way. I do think there was a good exchange of views. And I'm grateful to you, David Craddock, an ex-coal miner, to Oliver Hodgson, who is local to Whitehaven, where the Woodhouse Colliery is proposed to be. And also thanks to Chris Riches, a climate activist at Extinction Rebellion. Now, staying with the cost of living crisis, more people struggle between heating and eating. Data suggests that the UK throws away around 9.5 million tonnes of food in a single year. One business wants to put an end to that food waste and offer a cheaper alternative to your weekly shop by selling products that are past their best before dates that are still perfectly safe to eat.